Okay, good morning, folks, and welcome to this seminar after the coffee break. So my name is Chanliau, and I represent BC Team Coaching. I wanted to make that clear straight ahead. I am not an employee of the European Agency of Small and Medium-Sized Company. The SME is actually one of my clients. So the purpose of this presentation is to look at the EASME funding for Horizon 2020 from an insider's perspective and give you some of my feedback of coaching some of the Premier League of funded Phase 2 EASME clients, which is managed by Brussels. So just a little bit of my background. I'm a professional certified coach by the ICF, and my core competency is to work from the inside out to help companies innovate. And through that, use conversational leadership as a framework, and more importantly, I use teams to bring that message across. So who's aware of the EASME Horizon 2020 funding scheme? There's a few of you here. Okay. Any of your clients are of EASME here? Anyone on Phase 1 or Phase 2? Any Enterprise Island clients here? Okay. All right, so there's a few EI clients in there. So just a brief introduction on the SME instrument. It basically follows the design thinking process from commercialization, from concept to commercialization in here. And they've got three phases. They got Phase 1, which is this bit here. And you can get grants up to 50,000 euros, which is a concept feasibility side of things. And then they have Phase 2, which is where I come in, which is basically scaling your innovation. And the funding here goes up to 2.6 million euros, which is probably the biggest funding you can get in this part of the world without equity investment. So you start usually with innovation vouchers, the local grants, Enterprise Island, etc., and that would be the highest type of funding that you can get without any equity investment in there. And Phase 3, which is then internalization in there. So it's a very interesting concept, and what they do is with this funding, they provide coaching. So I'm a registered business innovation coach with the European Commission, working with EASME, and that's the purpose of my presentation, is to give you an inside look into that. So what is it in a nutshell? They've funded already 700 million, through 30,000 applications in here. It's highly competitive, as you can imagine. So the phase I want to talk about is Phase 2. There's about 6% success rate with that in Europe and there. The majority, and there's 4 deadlines every year at that level. And they're usually micro-sized, and the majority of the companies that I work with are in their second or third VC-funded journey, if you want to put it this way, in there. What's also interesting, anyone from, I think I didn't ask, anyone from EI here, Enterprise Island, no? You are from it, no, but you're a client of Enterprise Island, yeah. Which is interesting because the reason I'm using that is the EASME is represented through the European Enterprise Network in Ireland, which is obviously Enterprise Ireland. And they're doing a great job because they have the most efficient ratio of applications, and that's stats as of September 2016. So where do I come in? If you look at the life cycle of any SMEs who are going through an innovation process, and this is core innovation, and the European Commission has specific fields for that, they split this, and this is their framework, so it's not my framework. But you're going from a seed stage to a project stage to upscaling, and then the expansion stage. And so the majority of the companies in seed stage usually get Phase 1 funding. So that's 50,000 euros grant and 3 days of coaching. And there, the majority of them actually prepare for Phase 2 funded, which is the upscaling stage here. Hello, can you hear me now? The volume has gone down. Hello? I'm out. Okay then. All right. Can you hear me? Yeah? No, they cannot hear me. They can't hear me. Can you hear me? You've shut down the whole volume area.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
All right, sorry about that. Okay, that's better. Yeah, just slightly in there. Yeah. So where we come in is on this phase two here on the upscaling stage, which is about upscaling your company, and that involves 12 days of coaching, up to 2.6 million euros grant in there, usually 2 years type projects at that level. And when an SME is allowed in the phase two upscaling stage, usually the European Commission would put in OT coaching, which I'm going to present now, as compulsory. In other words, working from the inside out of the company. So this is a big jump. When you're going from upscaling to expansion stage, it's a huge jump in terms of your processes, your structure, your culture, your strategy. Again, usually these SMEs usually have project-to-project clients. They're living off 2 or 3 big clients, and now they're scaling and they're going internationally, either in Europe or North America or the East and here. And one of the things that one of my hypotheses, which is the purpose of this presentation, is that culture will eat strategy for breakfast and structure for dinner. And so it's my feedback from working with some of the phase two companies and here is to test that hypothesis as a professional OT coach. So there's nothing new here. That organizational culture, internal politics and organizational culture is the biggest threat to innovation, because most of these companies usually are focusing on funding. That's the number one priority. Get the funds coming in there. They're focusing on business development, and the cultural aspect is not really one of the priorities. Another way to look at this is if you look at some of the definitions of why OT coaching is important, because it focuses on the internal capacities and capabilities of a system in here. And there's been loads of research, which obviously in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I cannot present at the moment. One of the things I want to focus on is the OD gap, and this is defined through the EASME framework. When you apply for a phase two and you win that phase two, there's a whole algorithm in the back-end system. We're roughly 500 business registered coaches in Europe. There's about 300 of us who are really active. And in phase two, as I mentioned, because OD coaching is compulsory, this is where the European Commission would like to focus on. So it's around intellectual property, finances, structure, innovation processes, business model, supply chain, etc., etc. What I want to talk for the rest now is on team alignment. In other words, senior management team alignment and the impact it has on the culture of the company. Because there's so much things to talk about. And I'll give you a few tools at the end. But as a curiosity, who's in the consultancy, training, coaching background here? Okay, 2 or 3 people. So I'll share a few tools and what some of the tools that I'm using along that journey with them. Here. So, again, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of research, and this is a great article to read from March 2016 on Harvard Business Review, is Startup That Last. And again, when you're getting 2.6 million in funding, you have the funds, at least for 18 months, and the majority of these companies are also going for VC funding, at least the second or third round in there. So their main issues in order to scale is to look at hiring functional experts, giving a structure, and this is all to do with OD around planning and forecasting. And one of the main things I had to pick in 15 minutes is the alignment of the senior management structure and the impact it has on the efficiency of the company. And one of the tools that I use is the Katzenbach Team Performance Curve. So through the 12 days coaching that I do with them, we have lots of action learning exercises in there. And what this performance curve tells you is that as the team effectiveness improves of the senior management team, which represents the culture of the company, the performance impact is going to increase. In other words, the efficiencies, the internal efficiencies, as they're scaling, is going to increase. And the performance curve gives you different notions, from a working group to a pseudo team to a potential team to a real team, etc., etc. And each of these anchor points along that curve will have their own values, will have their own processes, their own behaviors, their own way of working, decision making, etc., etc. And anyone would have an idea the difference between, thank you, the differences between a group and a team? No? Differences between a group and a team? One guess, two guess. No? Oh, yes. Well, a real team is a small number of people who are, have a common purpose. And the common purpose is the thing that I see in alignment. In other words, the alignment of your purpose, vision, mission, strategy, that's the process of leadership. And in the background, you then have your KPIs and what is true management and how to manage them. So this is some of the, if I can get the clicker. So these are some, I had to take some examples. So these are, for example, 4 examples of phase 2 client teams that I'm working with. For confidential reason, I had to take the names out. But as you can see here, these 4 examples, the senior management team is rating themselves around a pseudo team as opposed to a real team. So again, that also proves my hypothesis to what extent the culture will eat strategy for breakfast or the structure for dinner and the lack of efficiency that they would have. Knowing that you cannot focus on everything, and again, as I said, this would be the least of the priorities, and this is why the European Commission is putting OD coaching as a priority again. So some of the tools we use to work on that, you start asking, what is your value proposition? What sort of leadership culture do you want? What sort of behaviors do you want? The normal journey that you go through this. And some of the tools that we're finding is that the tension that you have between the individual goals, the team goals, and your organizational goals is essentially your coaching conversation with the majority of them. And the tools that I use is systemic team coaching, because that's my expertise, is to look at the whole system and focusing on the individual. So that would be your behavioral leadership competencies, that would be your senior management team culture, and that would be the concrete objective results that you get out of that. And the interior individual is more on the vertical learning of belief system, values, etc., etc. But what the integral system theory will tell you is if any of this quadrant is misaligned, then the whole culture will be misaligned, or you will have an impact on these deficiencies in there. So, and obviously outside is your environment. So for example, if your lower quadrant is misaligned, then you would have misaligned organizational structures or low energy with your executive. But I don't have time, obviously, in 5 minutes to go a bit more in depth into this system. So one of the tools that I use is a research done by Ackerman and Weigelin. So that's senior leadership teams, what it takes to make them great. And what these guys have done from Harvard is they look at the 250 senior management teams and what makes them really effective across the organization, across the globe. And they talk about the essentials and the enablers. And the essentials is about having a real team, having a purpose. And the one that I've highlighted in red is the main one that I work with, and having a team norm, in other words, a team charter on how is it you want to work together and how is it you want to implement your culture basically in there. And what we find when I have the chance and the opportunity, and I'm very grateful for that, to work with the Premier League of Europe in terms of innovation. I work with people who are highly intelligent and who have obviously great innovation, who want to change the world through scaling up and there. But the majority of the VC-funded environment is just to focus on the knowledge, the competencies, the technology, the numbers, but very few of them focus inside. And that's why our business is to focus from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. We're looking at the systems and how you can scale it in order for companies to be successful. So I kind of finished my presentation. We've got 2 minutes for questions and answers. We're doing, obviously that's my only sales pitch. We're doing a little bit of a promotion on team assessment. So if you're interested, just grab a business card and get in touch with me, either through LinkedIn Twitter or by email. And now I'm just going to open the floor for at least 1 or 2 more questions. We got 1 more 2 minutes. Yes, sir. No, you, yeah. Yeah, so the question is, can you structure innovation within teams? If you go back to slide 4, please. Slide 4? Yeah. Um, don't forget that the innovation already, oops, slide 4 please, I think. Sorry about that. The innovation already exists because they are, that would be when you're still at the conceptual idea here. When you're at that stage, you're marketing your innovation already. So what you're saying, to answer your question, sir, is at that level, at the seed stage, absolutely. You can structure your innovation within the company through design thinking, skill set, through there's all sorts of tools that you can then structure it in order to move to that level, which is the beginning of your generating revenue, basically. Because prior to applying for that, you have at the phase 2, you would have to have generated revenue. Did I answer your question, or is that? And we can talk about it. One more question? We're good? Well, thank you very much, folks. Thank you.